Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. There are two different things that I'd like to discuss with you tonight. The first one being a storm that is barreling down on our country and will be impacting approximately 250 million Americans in 40 different states. We've been working together here at the FEMA headquarters and have opened our National Response Coordination Center and are working with local and state authorities to make sure that we're getting individuals and communities pre-deployed resources that they may need and also preparing them for the upcoming days, which will significantly impact them and their citizens. The Trump administration and FEMA are working closely with them to get them information, to get them resources, and to help them be prepared and well equipped for the road ahead as we go through this next week. But before I take any questions and give more details on the storm and its impact, I do want to address the tragic situation that we saw in Minneapolis today that unfolded on the streets. It occurred with DHS law enforcement as they carried out their lawful duties to keep Americans safe in the threat of criminal illegal aliens in this country. At 9:05 a.m. Central Time, the Department of Homeland Security law enforcement officials and officers were conducting targeted operations in Minneapolis against an illegal alien whose criminal history included domestic assault with intentionally inflicting bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. About hundreds of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off. Crowd control measures were deployed to bring safety to the public and to law enforcement at the scene. And once again, I want to remind everybody that this situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement.
You know, I keep hearing all these Democrats defend this Alex Pretti. Now, mind you, Alex Pretti had a job that I could respect. He was an ICU nurse at the VA hospital. I can respect that job. I can't respect what he did outside of his job. He went to protect a violent criminal while carrying a firearm and went after ICE agents. ICE agents are law enforcement. They are enforcing the law. Whether Democrats want to admit that or not, they are enforcing the law. You have a firearm on you while you're protecting a violent criminal. I have no respect for you at that point. I can respect what you did as a job, but I can't respect what you did as a person. Now, you're going to hear, you just heard from Secretary No. My thought process in all of this is, why are people willing to protect violent scumbags? Seriously. Why are you willing to do that? I've got the information here that's going to tell you about this. But you've got a situation in which a person who is supposedly educated, is supposedly intelligent enough to get a degree that is very necessary in this nation, and worked at a place. Now, mind you, he was a union employee. I have no respect for that. Government unions, I have no respect for. They're criminal organizations that are funding the Democrat Party. But, well, okay, let me rephrase that better. They're organizations that have criminals working for them, as seen by the amount of union members that are put in prison. And they facilitate their ability to do these crimes, and then add on top of the fact of that they give a lot of money to the Democrat Party. So, okay, it may not necessarily be considered a criminal organization by legal definition standards, but you know. And then you have this guy doing this, and he goes out and is protecting a criminal, a violent criminal at that. At what point do you go, I shouldn't carry a firearm if I'm going to do anything that is requiring me to interact with law enforcement who I am going to be standing up against? You aren't in McMinn County, Tennessee. This is not 1945, 1946. You are not the one in the right in any situation at all of this. I mean, seriously, you're protecting a violent criminal. How are you in the right by protecting a violent criminal? And then you have all these people that are crying and whining because you got put down like the violent criminal you were protecting needed to be. I don't like violence. I'm tired of seeing violence, but you know what? You made a decision, and your decision led to you having your life taken because you screwed around and found out. You fapoed. But we're going to get into information about this. So stick around. Let's get you some more information. Before we get into the rest of the video, hey, hit like, hit subscribe if you want to know what's going on with government, whether it's federal, state, or local level. I cover all those things. Also, have a link tree down below. Got my Patreon. Got to plug my Patreon. And real quick, hey, our government was founded to help with freedom and help with opportunities, not the mess that we've got today. We want to make sure it gets back that way. That's what I'm fighting for. Now, let's get into this story. American Federation of Government Employees identified the man fatally shot by a Border Patrol agent in Minneapolis Saturday as one of its members, Alex Jeffrey Pretti. Pretti, a 37-year-old Minneapolis resident and U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs ICU nurse, was shot during an immigration enforcement operation early Saturday targeting Jose Huerta Chuma, an illegal immigrant with a criminal history including domestic assault with for intentional conflict bodily harm. Okay, I think they said that wrong. With the intention to inflict bodily harm. Disorderly conduct and driving without a driver's license or valid license. Okay, those last two, whatever. Homeland Security officials said Pretti approached Border Patrol agents while armed with a 9mm pistol and violently resisted when they attempted to disarm him. Medics immediately delivered aid, but Pretti was pronounced dead at the scene of the shooting. State officials said Pretti had a lawful permit to carry, which I don't have a problem with that. He wasn't a criminal up until that point. Court records indicate his 2-year marriage. Okay, who cares about that? Department of Homeland Security is leading the investigation in the shooting with assistance from the FBI. Pretti's father, Michael, told Associated Press his son, a University of Minnesota graduate, started getting involved in protest after the fatal January 7th shooting of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent, noting he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States with ICE. He thought it was terrible, kidnapping children, just grabbing. They aren't kidnapping children and grabbing people off the street. They're grabbing criminals off the street. He cared about these people, so he cared about criminals. And he knew it was wrong, so he did participate in protest. His parents said they recently told him to be careful when protesting, asking him not to engage or do anything stupid. So he didn't listen to his parents. He said he knew that, Michael Pretti told the outlet. The family said they did not know about the shooting until they were contacted by a reporter and couldn't get any information from Border Patrol local hospitals. Hennepin County medical examiner later confirmed It received their son's body, but his parents said they had not heard from any federal law enforcement agencies as of Saturday night. Who cares? Sickening lies told about her son by the administration. What lies? Okay, I'm not going to cover. The AFGE said as of Saturday night, many of the details remain unclear. Video of the incident is circulating on social media. And the Department of Homeland Security has publicly stated that the victim was brandishing a weapon at officers. However, based on the video currently available, that claim is clearly not established. You had a firearm while protesting a violent criminal being arrested. Of course, you were brandishing it, even if you weren't carrying it out in your hand. It just being there is a threat. Um, okay, so this is basically, even though I'm getting this from Fox News, this is the least idiotic writing of this. Alex, okay, according to this, uh, okay, I think this came from Kamala Harris. Alex and tens of thousands of Minnesotans have boldly defended their neighbors against the murderous occupation of an American city by the federal government. The federal government isn't occupying anywhere. Think about that for a minute. The federal government has the right to be in any part of this country. Now, I have a problem with them entering people's homes that are American citizens. If you're American citizens, you don't have constitutional rights. But you're defending violent criminals. Okay. Enraged and heartbroken for Alex and his family. What? Um, this is basically, you've got a whole bunch of liberals saying a whole bunch of weird crap. That's unfazed by reality. Now, I love that, you continuously hear this lie that it's an occupation. It's not an occupation. They're coming in, removing violent criminals, predators of children, identity thieves. And let me tell you something, identity thieves are probably more dangerous to the American people than a lot of these violent individuals. These violent individuals only cause harm to a few. Identity thieves ruin people's lives and leave them alive to have to comb through the wreckage. They're removing predators of women, people that do some really nasty stuff to human beings, drug trafficking, human trafficking, you name it. These people are being removed. If there's other criminal migrants around them that may not necessarily be violent or sitting there, hey, I have no problems with them getting removed. They shouldn't be in the country anyway. We know that they're getting Medicaid, Medicare, welfare. In some places have been allowed to vote. All of that is known. So getting them out of the country is not an occupation. It's removing an occupation. And to continuously hear this lie that you're protecting their neighbors. If you want violent criminals as your neighbors, we have something else to talk about. There is a mental dissonance, a disconnect from reality there that makes me wonder at whether you should be allowed to be a nurse at an ICU, whether it's for veterans or not. Pretti stepped up to law enforcement that was doing their job. Now, if they were actually obeying the detainers, and that's something that I think needs to be every time that or any kind of agency decides to not respect a detainer, then somebody should be arrested for aiding and abetting, and then throw in on top of that, that should go to the Supreme Court. I want to have it codified via judicial. There should be consequences for not following detainers. That's the problem. They're willing to follow the detainers when it's a Democrat in office, but Bush or Trump gets in office and you're not going to follow the detainers. What kind of garbage is that? And then you've got these sanctuary cities that aren't even helping out their fellow Democrats. So you've got this problem where you have law enforcement agencies not following the law. Because I hate to tell you this, you morons seem to think, oh, but it's codified in the law that we're not supposed to. No, it's codified in the law that you were supposed to obey the federal government. 14th Amendment said that, you whatever the Constitution says is over that, and we have something called the Supremacy Clause. This Alex Pretti feller would have still been alive if he had used some common sense. And, oh, by the way, if law enforcement agencies in the state of Minneapolis had followed the law, not some political agenda in their local jurisdiction. I want to see all this play out in court. But I also want to start seeing some people arrested for all of this. Because why do we have people out there trying to protect violent criminals? That's my question in all of this. This guy decided to use violence through picture, aka having a firearm on him when he went to protest against or to try to protect a violent criminal who did not belong in this country. This is what's being defended right here by the liberals. But hey, you tell me what you think. This Paul, the redneck thinker, y'all have a good day now. Bye. Hey, that's my video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And comment. Don't forget that either. Hey, this has been Paul with
Artlist.io.
Redneck Thinker Media. I do sports, I do politics. Hit like, subscribe, and y'all, this has been Paul. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.